guys how we all hope all do well. Picking for locks and you know it. Don't forget to even hashtag it. Keep it bloody legal. So, as promised, I would do a review of the KLOM Tubular key cutters. And as you know, I ordered 2 of them. I have them here. Well, I bought 2 of them, I should say. Not ordered, bought them. Nowhere in town where I live does tubular keys or can cut them. But people say to me, do you know where I can get these cut? I've been everywhere. None of the locksmiths in town do it. So I thought, well, why not, find a niche in the market, which I did with the tubular keys. Might as well, for a bit of fun, buy them and can do, as I'm going to be doing the key cutting in the market, so I can actually do tubular keys. So I ended up buying 2 of the KLOM sets. I looked at the hurdy-gurdy. It's going to cost me over $400 for the hurdy-gurdy machine. I thought, and I saw these and I couldn't help it for these prices. If you cut 1 or 2 keys a month, maybe, they're not going to break the bank. I paid $110 for the 7.8mm and $103 for the 7.5, I believe it was. So it might have been the other way around. Prices, they're just over $100 Australian. So, they range from seller to seller. So, by the time you pay postage and everything, you're looking at about the $100 to $110 range. So, if it's one of those things where you might cut 1 or 2 a month, or maybe even 1 every 3 months, it's not going to break your bank. You can have it sitting in your vehicle or whatever it is if you're a locksmith. And when you need it, you can actually cut a tubular key. So, as I said, I picked up the 7.5 and the 7.8, the 2 main sizes that we come across here in Australia. And a lot of the stuff we get tubular keys on here is, you've seen me all pick these hinge pins for, your tongues and your tow bar, stop people from stealing them. Bicycle locks, motorbike disc locks, so to lock the discs up, so no one can ride off your bike. Stuff like that, what else? I've got a lock up here, a cable lock for a push bike, which I actually tested out the cutters we've cut the key for. Vending machines and stuff like that. So, and even the steering wheel locks, all come with tubular keys. So, there is a market for them here in town. So anyway, I'll go into this in a second. I'll put that down over here. So what do you get in the box? Well, I've taken one thing out of one of the boxes and put it in my case, because you get one in each one you order. But we'll have a look. So you open them up and they actually come quite nicely packaged, to be honest. And they're both virtually identical. They are identical, just the sizes are different. So what do you get? Well, you don't get the Allen key. That you'll have to have one on hand, because I had to adjust these when I got them. To make sure they actually cut to the right depths and everything, which I'll explain in a minute. But you do get a nice little decoding key. So you actually need to decode your tubular key in order to cut it with these machines. So this works very simply. You take the key that you want to duplicate, and you got all your cutouts around the edge, and you take this and you measure the depth of the cut. So you put it down into the cutout and you go, that's number 3 cut, 3 cut, 1 cut. I know these are 3. You go around to here and you flip it upside down to get the 6 on the other side, and that's a 6 cut. So you measure it so it's flush down into the cutout on your key and across the top of your key to actually mark out your depths. Once you have the depths for each one, then you can use this to cut your key. So that's why they give you one in each box. I took one out because it's sitting, as I said, in my case down there. So it's all good. So I actually have 2 of them. So the machine itself is 3 parts to it. You have, let me pull the 7.5 out. And as I said, I had to modify these a bit. So that's 7.5. They're actually quite a nice, small, little, compact machine. This one is the 7.8 out. So let me move these across here for a second. These boxes. The box is actually quite nice. Got little magnetic closes on them so they stay nice and shut. And yeah, these are the KLOM 747s, the K747. So, as I said, it comes in 3 parts. You have the cutter, which is this little drill bit looking thing just here. This is your little cutter, which will only cut in one direction. So when you put it in, you have to turn it clockwise in order for it to actually cut your key. It won't cut counterclockwise. You have the main body of your lock. So let's put that back in here. Come on. So, whole machine, you know, nice, small, it fits in the palm of your hand. Like if you've got big hands like me, anyway. Nice and small. So as I said, it comes in 3 parts. You have your cutter, which is on here. This little dial just here, so you can actually turn it. You have the main body of the lock just here, and that's where you put your key on. You have all the little cutouts for your 7 pins for when you actually cut your key. And then you have this piece up here where you sit the handle of your key in. Let me just grab one here into there. So that will sit in there. That will go, this won't fit because it's 7.5mm key on there. Line everything up, and then you can use all this to dial in and cut, which I'll explain in a second. So, how do you know what you're cutting? Well, on here, as you can see, we have all the numbers around the top here. Now, the ones on the top where the cutting handle is are your depths. So, 7 being the lowest or the deepest cut. This is the closest to the middle of the body, and then you can actually turn it, and as you can see, it will actually get further and further away, right down to the highest possible cut, which is a 0, which it doesn't cut at all, but a 1 cut. So the biggest gap there. So your cutting disc, as you can see just there, each one, it gets a little bit deeper in as you dial to give you your depth of your cuts, the actual cutting disc. So that is how you control your depths. Now, as I said, I had to modify mine. So when I got it, I had checked it with a key. I measured the depth of the key, and this is the one I used. I then took my key, I put it onto my cutout here on my cutter, and I measured the depth, and I know this cut here is a 6, so I'll turn the dial to a 6. And then I push the cutter in to make sure that it's perfectly flush and sitting in nice in the right spot on the cutter. And I just had to take an Allen key, loosen off the little screw in there, and just adjust this cutter so that it will actually cut to the right depth. It was cutting way too deep for it, so I had to adjust it so that it cuts the right depth. So small little modification you have to do to it, but you know, if you want it to work properly, that's what you're going to have to do. The other thing I had to do with these was scratch into the actual bodies so I could actually mark which cut is which, because it doesn't actually line up with any other lines on here when you work out your depths or your spacing for your cuts. So when you actually line up a key and you have to cut a key, you start off cutting with this one. Get it around the right way. Just that. So I marked it out so that when I start cutting, I cut pin 7 or cut 7 space first. You can then pull this out to change it a little bit, and you can move your number, and the whole dial on the inside, take the cutter out completely, will actually turn, so you can see what depth you're actually cutting all the way up to pin 1. So that's why you go around and work out your depth. So I just had to work out which side was that, and then I just took a file and scratched in. The reason why I have 2 is so that when I hold it like this, because you hold it in your hand this way, hold it in position here, and actually turn the cutter as you put pressure on the pushing in as you cut into the key. So if I block that one with my finger, I can actually make sure that both are lined up so I'm in the right cuts. mainly for the 7.5 because the keys I have for that one at the moment don't have the inner guide, which actually sits into the valley, cut out into the end of the actual bit just here. That aligns your key perfectly. And the 7.5 doesn't have that, or 7.5 key blanks that I bought. This one is actually a dud. I'll explain that in a second. So again, with this one, I had to mark out where the actual numbers are. You go from 7, and the reason why I actually marked it this way, when I'd cut the first key, which was actually the key to this here, I took my original keys for it. I cut out, or measured all the depths of it, had them all around the right way. I put the key in. I started cutting with the way I believed it actually was set. So the way I had it set, I was cutting first with pin 1, or cut 1, marked on that line, which is the right spot. 2, 3, and I was actually going clockwise with it. I cut all the key, and when I looked at it, I'm like, yep, depths, that looks identical. I put them together, they were all matching. Yep. But then when I sat them next to each other this way, the way they're meant to go in, I cut the wrong sides. So I was actually cutting around the key the wrong way. So instead of going clockwise, you actually have to cut counterclockwise. So instead of starting on pin 1, you actually start on pin 7, according to this on here. So then it cuts 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, back to 1, around here. And that actually cuts the correct key. So let me get this key out of the way. So that's a little thing that I actually, learnt on the way through. So I did stuff up one key, which isn't that bad of a thing. At least I worked it out. I have the key that I actually cut right here. I also had to modify it to file down the tip of the key, a little nose that sticks out, make it a little bit smaller because it wouldn't fit in there correctly. So as I said, once I worked out, you got to actually move it counterclockwise, each number to cut, then you can actually cut in the correct sequence on your key. So if I take the original keys, which is right here, for this lock, put them into the lock, like that. It'll actually turn nice and smooth, and you can open the lock. You can turn them back that way, lock them up, and it's all good. So here is the duplicated key using the 7.5. So fit him into the lock like that, push him in, he turns as smooth as anything. So the actual cutting works, it lines up perfectly, it is all nice and smooth. As I said, the reason why I had to put 2 lines on here was with this one, as I said, these don't have the center nose going down the inside of the key. These are just a hollow one on the inside. So when you put that on there, let's move that cutter out. When you put him on there, he's just going to freely spin any direction. There's no way to actually align it perfectly. So what I ended up having to do, as I said, mark it so that it sits at pin 1, or pin 7, cut 7. Line him up like that. Get him into there, get the key into the cutout. Come on, fit. There we go. So, as I said, to be very, very careful, make sure I'm cutting in the right actual space. I had to mark it twice so that when I hold it, I can actually hold the end of this cutter here, the dial, with force, so that when I actually start cutting the key, I know it's 3 depth, fit him in there. So when I actually start cutting through, I can make sure that I'm correctly aligned with the 2 scratches on here, hold it in position, and then I can actually cut and try not to let that move. Otherwise, my spacing is going to be out. So that's why I put the 2 lines, so I can really make sure that I got him in the right spot. Do my cut as need be, like that. And then I can pull my cutter back and then move on to the next position and line them up So I know if the 6 is on there, and if I've got that blocked with my finger, I can see the 0 is on there. So I know that I'm perfectly aligned for these keys. And that's what I did. Went all the way through and ended up cutting a nice copy of a Tubular key for the lock I've got here. So again, just to show you it does work. Put them in nice and smooth, no drag. I won't bore you to actually cutting a key, but as you can see, it's not one of these ones. It's a copy of it. So it works very, very well. So as I said, for the price, for about $100 to $110 for a tubular key cutter that you can actually, use a few times if you need be. If you're not, don't cut that many of them. Something that you can fit in your vehicle if you're a locksmith, or doesn't break the bank. Small, compact. You cut a few keys on it, you make your money back on the machines. So I actually do like these machines. As I said, I've used them. Now I haven't seen a bad thing about them. The only thing is trying to get tubular keys here in Australia. I did find a supplier, and I can get the 7.8 millimeter tubular keys. I bought 2 of them. They're going to cost me $10 each for the blanks, so I had to charge like $20 just to make money back on it. $15 to $20 to make something off of it. And then I asked them if they had the 7.5s, in which they said yes, we do. They put them up for $13 each, and then just as I was about to go and buy some, they put the prices up to over $15 each. So it just blows the budget right out on them. There's no way that I can actually purchase them for that price and then be able to make a profit or anything off of it by cutting them. So I have to find another supplier for tubular keys. It's the only downside to having these. But do I recommend these for locksmiths or anything like that? Yes, I have to admit I do quite like these. As long as you make sure you're cutting the right way. As I said, you don't want to do a dud like that. Cut around the wrong way. If you don't cut that many tubular keys, you're not breaking the bank by spending over $300 on the hurdy-gurdy. For a cheap, compact, small, fit in the palm of your hand, little tubular key cutting device that works, why not? I highly recommend them. So anyway, that's the review. I like them. I give them a thumbs up. Work well. A few modifications. It's very simple and easy to do, and you have yourself a nice compact little key cutter. The only thing is, when you get them, don't read the instructions, because the instructions are the worst Chinglish, as I call it, I've ever seen. And I'll just read out a little bit that shows how bad it really is. Specification: it can be quickly made a key without a key, according to the tooth number without power supply. A. Measurement of foot home with key measurements in the depth of the tank pit, and were recorded accordingly. B. Insert the key with the key device body axis and rotation at the through positioning device with the 0 key. So yeah, it's bad. Really is. Worst instructions ever. But there's a few videos you can actually see how people actually cut keys in. That's why I haven't bored you doing that. Just give you a quick review. So anyway, there you go. As always follow the codes. Keep Locksport legal. You know it. Don't do anything bloody stupid. Don't forget to come join us on Discord. The Extremely Legal Pickers. Links in the description down below. Don't forget, if you're looking for great equipment at very affordable and competitive prices, don't forget to check out locksmithtoolbox.com, a great Australian company, and as you know, that's where I get most of my lockpicking equipment from. Don't forget, you're looking for Dalp merch. You can get that at Teespring. There's a link in the description down below as well. If you want to get in contact with me through any of the social medias. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Or send me an email at darkartslockpicking@gmail.com, and I'll get back to you. If you like what you see, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you bloody think of the KLOM key cutters, the tubular keys. Have you used one? Would you be interested in one? Get the conversation going down below in the comments. And till next time, cheers, guys. Yeah. It's the worst I've ever seen.